record this. If there's anything tricky about lab 10 and 11, it's that we have a loop with an if statement inside a loop. That happens sometimes. Of course, you can have loops inside loops. You can have if statements inside if statements. Now, why is there going to be an if statement inside the loop? Where is that? Okay. So, for example, in this one here, let's look at this at exercise 2, which is based on exercise 1. What we have to do is we have to count, make a special count just for the classes which are more than 20. And so we're entering the classes, one class at a time inside the loop, but we then check to see if that class is more than 20. And if it is, we add it to a special total. And so you heard me say the word if there, and that's because we're going to use an if statement inside a while statement. So I'm not going to do the flow chart to start with this time because it takes me so long to do the flow chart and we got a lot of work to do. So I'm just going to go straight into the Python code, which looks a lot like pseudocode. We'll come back if we need to and look at the flow chart later. So let's just get going straight up in Python code. See what we got going here with this problem. I hope that's okay. We haven't done this before. I noticed that when I looked at your Dropbox, nobody's done these labs. So let's look at them. Lab 10. Lab 10's got 4 exercises. You can download Lab 10. I'm showing you Lab 10 here.
So, is it possible to have this soft copy?
It's not part of our course, so don't strain yourself on that. That's 1201. We're not doing all that stuff. And anyways, all of that stuff, you can get it by doing a Google or going to what do you call it? W3 schools. So let's look at problem 1. Some students, total number of students taking a course. Now, the thing is that the course is broken up into sections. So for example, in our course, we've got like, I don't know, 14 sections or something like that. Now, what we're going to do with this one is we're going to use a Sentinel loop, it looks like, because yes, we do a Sentinel loop. We ask the user to enter a code for a section, and we have a little bit of a error trapping on there. If the person enters a code which does not exactly 8 characters, then we're going to give them an error message. We're going to make them enter it again. So we see that this time the person has entered that code twice because the first time they had entered it wrong. So this is, we'll implement that in a while loop. And then all of this stuff is implemented in another while loop. So our program, in order to achieve this, you can just see by looking at the run that we need 2 while loops. One here, which counts section by section, and one here, which doesn't allow you to have a code which is wrong. So this is an error trapping loop, and this is just our ordinary loop. And the thing is that we count the total number of students and we count the number of sections. So that's fine. That's not going to be hard to do. Let's implement that in Python. So this would be lab 10, problem 1. And it's about what it's just, I don't know, students count, whatever. And so straight up, what we notice is we have to count the number of students. We need a total at the bottom. So this is one thing that you can do just looking at the output. I need to have a total. And so total's always going to start with 0 because we're going to add to it as we go, right? Well, not always, but, normally going to start with 0. So that's going to start with 0. We also need to count our sections. And so I'm going to have a section. We can start section at 1.
So what's P1?
P1, problem 1. Oh, let me call it E1. So it's not so good. The X1, is that better? So exercise 1. So we're going to, we've got a grand total, which we're going to set to 0. And then we're going to work sections one at a time. Now our loop is going to be controlled by the number of students. So we're going to ask them, well, first we're going to get if we look at the sample run, first we're going to get a course code, and then we're going to test that course code. So to get the course code, that's going to be an input. Oh,
Why is section equal to one?
because here, section 1, section 2, section 3.
Oh,
So I'm going to use that for these sections. Okay, so our input, I'm just going to take the course code input from here, from the sample run. So just going straight from the sample run to our Python code. It's not too hard to do that in this case. Okay. Pull it over here a bit. There's Aisha, welcome. So we asked them for the code, but it's possible that they didn't have the right code. So we tested that it's a good code just by the length of the code. So we actually have a function to do that, which is called len. So we can put that into a error trapping loop. We can just say while the len of C code. And what I'm going to do is to save myself to make sure I don't do any typing mistakes. I'm just going to copy that and put it into there. So we're only going to stick them in the loop if they make a mistake. This is an error. It's an error if they don't have a code which is 8 characters long. So it must be 8 characters long, or else it's an error. The while is going to be true if there's an error. So it's an error if not equal to 8. Everybody see why I did the not equal to 8, not 89, not equal to 8. So this is the length of the code. What it does. Remember, len works on a string. We input a string here, and we see if that string is 8 characters long. We're checking to see it's 8 characters long. If it's not 8 characters long, then we print an error message. We print an error message, and our error message is given to us in the sample output, which is here, error. Must be 8 characters long. Just copy that and put it in there. There's our error message. And if there's an error, we actually ask them to input it again. So inputting it again is just running this course code again. So I'm copying and pasting, if you're wondering what I'm doing. Copy and paste. So all I've done there is I read a number. Oh, sorry, it's not a number, is it? Because if it was a number, we'd have to convert it to an integer. I read a string, and then I check to see how long is that string. If that string is not exactly 8 characters long, so that len does, then I say, hey, it's got to be 8 characters long, and read the string again. And so they'll be stuck in that loop as long as they keep entering a string, which is not 8 characters long. As soon as they enter 8 characters long, they're out of the string. Now, if they started off straight away with a thing which is 8 characters long, there wouldn't be any error. So I only get the error if it's not 8 characters long. All right, so then we're going to get into the loop. We can see that this is another loop because you can just see it, the repeating going on there. Enter the number of students in section 1, enter the number of students in section 2. Now I've got a variable for section, which I've set to the variable to the value of 1. So what I'm going to need another loop. Yeah. So what's this loop going to be? This is going to be all the sections, but this is a Sentinel loop. Where we want to see if the number of students in the section is more than 0. Okay, so I better read the number of students. So that's going to be, I don't know, snum, I guess I'm going to call it student num. Is that all right with you guys? And so that's going to be an integer, and we're going to input it. Student number. So I do ask for the number of students. That's this thing here. Enter the number of students in section 1. Enter the number of students in section 1. Now, I can actually get away with that first time through. And now we're going to say while what? While snum is bigger than 0, right? well, SNUM is bigger than 0, we're going to add it to the total. And because we have to print the total at the end, and we have to print the number of sections. Okay. So we're going to increment the total and increment the section. When we print it, we'll have to print section -1 because we will have incremented past the number of sections that we've got. Unless I print this, unless I have this as 0. Yeah, let's put this as 0. That'll be better. So we enter, yeah, okay. That's actually going to work. So we're going to increment the total. So how I increment the total is just, I'm going to copy that total from there and increment it. Incrementing will just be equal itself plus 1. No, not plus 1, plus SNUM. Again, I'm just going to copy it from here so I make sure I don't make any spelling mistake. Because we make spelling mistakes, don't we? And that messes up our programs. So do the same with the section number. Increment the section number. And this is just going to be added 1 to it. Oh. Then a plus there and 1. Now, this while loop, yes.
Instead of having section +1, could you use section ++?
Yes. Yeah. How'd you know that? Now, just check to make sure it does work. I believe it does. It certainly works in Java. ++. Yep. I think so. It works with 1. Yeah. Or you might have to say +=1. Yeah, it means increment by 1. Try ++. If it doesn't work, then try +=1. That will work. So try it and see. Yeah, okay, so let's try. I don't know that it'll work. We might have to do +=1. I'm pretty sure +=1 works. I'm not sure about ++, but we could try it. I mean, it works in Java and it works in C, like you said. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is copy this. So there's our while. That's kind of all we have to do with that. Then we just have to print out the stuff at the end. This will end if the student number is not bigger than 1. So we got our printout coming at the end here. Just a print with all of this stuff in it. So there's going to be 2 things in the print, which is going to be the total number of students and the number of sections. So then the number of sections. Number of sections is just this value section. To be honest, I'm not sure about that ++. As I said, I know it works in Java, but I think it's kind of dodgy in this one. But we'll try it. It's worth a try. I mean, we could easily do a Google on it. And this one is got to be total. Let's run that. What is this one? Lab 10, exercise 2, exercise 1. See, it doesn't like that. That's saying it's invalid syntax. So that's not working. So I suspect that it won't, but I think you can do it like that, which is just to add 1 to it. Okay, so indicate your source code. So this is, I'm just going to look at the, not that one. We're going to do this error, INFS. So yeah, short answer on that, Hafsa, it doesn't work with the plus plus. Did you see I got a syntax error? But if you do plus equal 1, it works. Well, I mean, I haven't got a syntax error at least. Now indicate the course code. So that one didn't. So we see what happens when we put the wrong course code in. That's what we're expecting. So that's right. And so now put another course code in, which is correct. And so far in our code, we haven't tested that plus equal, but I think it's going to work. So let's try 25, and no, it didn't work. Plus equal didn't work. See that? Let's have a look at our code. Where's our code? So I mean, it worked here. Oh, no, it may be working. I need to be careful about that. It probably is working. I have got the wrong thing in here, right? So I didn't update this. So let's not be hasty. This may actually be working. And here we put in the value of section. Yeah, let's run it again. Every time you run it again, you save it. So I think that that's all that was. So the course code, we know that that works. INF with not long enough. So we'll do it again. INFS 1101. Okay, so 25, 17. No, that's not working still. So it's not working. Somehow we haven't quite got that right for some reason. So we're just going to go back to that. There is something like a plus equal that works with it, but as you can see, it's not actually working for me here. So I'm going to go back to the old steady way. No, it's not that. Okay, so what's wrong with my print? Oh. Because I started section with 0. But I got a section plus 1, yeah. Section equals section plus 1. This should say, oh yeah, well, I started with 0. So if I start this with 1, let's see. Run it again. It could have been that. It could have been that all the time. So my apologies. Let's start this again. And we may even be able to do that plus plus. I don't know. We're experimenting in class. Why would you do that? Because that's what we do in computing, is we experiment a lot. So that's working. Let's now try it. So that's what we know that's working like that. Let's try it with the plus equal. Plus equal 1. Run it again. And so that's working with plus equal 1. Let's try it with plus plus, because it may actually work. Let's see. Plus equal 1 works. And so let's try it with plus plus. It may work after all, because no, I get an error. So got to stick with plus equals 1. Yeah, okay, so that it doesn't like plus plus. Plus equals 1. That works. Okay. So plus equals 1 works. INFS 1101. Let's check our code now against the input, the data that they use, the trial run, which is here. Okay, so INFS1, or they did 1202, but same, 25, 17, 22, 19, and 0. When you do 0, that should stop the loop. Now, it's saying 83 across 5 sections. Because I started with 1, I need to, when I do this, I need to subtract 1 from the number of sections.
Section plus 1 in the string. That's what I did.
Okay. Here. Yeah, you started with 0 and I added section plus 1 in the string, then you wouldn't need section plus 1 here. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Anyway, either way is okay. You did this.
Yeah.
And you did this. And you did this. And 2, what was the other one? 19. 4 seconds. So that's fine.
Yeah, so you're getting 4 sections, I'm getting 5 sections.
Yeah, because you probably started counting from 1. So yeah, just watch that. Just watch your count as you go. I had to add 1 here as per Hafsa. When I wasn't adding 1, I started counting from 1. Then I had to subtract 1 here. So I mean, just watch that. Okay, so that's part 1 or exercise 1. Let's look at exercise 2. Is modify it so that it does that. Indicates if there's 20 or more. So to indicate if there's 20 or more, you need another total. Let's just call it 20. And it's going to be a total that's going to work for the whole program. So I'm going to set it there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put right at the start, if the number is bigger than 20, then we're going to add to the 20. So just a if snum is bigger than or equal to 20, then we're going to add to the 20. So we can use our newly discovered thing that we like to use to save time. You can just see that. So that means we're going to add 1 to it, just like we did for the section. So that saves you a bit of typing. We all like saving a bit of typing. And then we're going to have this thing down here, which is, that's going to be our print at the end. So what we've done is we just modified the program to test to see if any of these sections got more than 20 students in it. And if it does, then we're going to count that. So this number 1 here, that's going to actually be replaced by the number 20, right? How many of them do we have that's more than 20? We started with 0, and every time there's a number with more than 20, we add 1 to it. So we can just do that by putting a string in here. By putting the variable 20 in there, which is our count. 20 of these students, okay. So let's try that. Okay, so nothing else has changed. I'm not going to go through the error on this. We know that works. But we're going to do this. Yeah. We're going to put in these values. 25, 17, 22. That's the same values, isn't it? But it's going to say how many have at least 20 students. So 25, 17, 22, 19, 0. And 2 of these sections have at least 20 students. So how'd we do that? Go back. We added a counter for the number of sections that have 20. Yep. You could call it whatever you want, but you can't use a number to start the name of a variable. So that's why I typed it as a word. Then the only other thing we did is we added this if statement to it. Inside the while, yeah. So every time we check, we have another number, we check that number, see if it's more than 20. If it is, we add to the total. And then we just print and say how many there are. So there's 3 parts there of the change that we did. Start with a new variable, which we initialize to 0. Then every time we're going through the loop, we check to see if our number is more than 20. If it is, we add to the total. And then we just print that out. So it's really just counting, right?
So I need to say it again. 20 plus 41.
The changes that I made to the previous one is I started with a new variable, which I initialized to 0. Then inside the while loop, I added a if statement. Now notice this if statement doesn't have any else with it. It's just if this is that, then we do that. But there's no else. If it's false, we just keep on going. And if it's true, we just keep on going, right? When we're finished checking to see if it's more than 20, we just keep on going.
This other than this program, whenever I try any program and I do the string bracket variable function, without inverted comma before or after it, it doesn't work. Even now it's not working.
Whenever you do the what?
The string.
String, str.
Whenever I have string,
This one?
yeah.
Well, yeah, it's probably because of your quotes. Just check your quotes, all right? So notice how this is. The string outside the quote, outside the string is a quote and a plus and a plus and a quote. That's probably the reason. You see that? That's probably the reason it wouldn't work. And you can tell by the colors, right? Okay. Can I go on to the next one? So that's why what I was doing is I was, when I added the string in there, first I started by putting 2 quotes in, then I put 2 pluses, then I put the string in. That way I knew I had the right number of quotes and pluses, right? So to basically what we're doing is we're inserting into a string. And so to insert into a string, it's going to be a quote plus, and then a plus quote, and then the str thing. Easy peasy? Up and easy. All right, so I'm going to continue on if that's okay. Is that okay? Yeah, take a picture if you like. Nobody will know.
So you added an str total, string total.
Yeah, so the total is a number. That's why I had to convert it to a string, so I could insert it into the rest of the string. So I took the total, converted it to a string, inserted into this string in between those words, and did the same thing here with this number here. Section is a number, so I converted to a string and inserted into this string with these other ones. And in the last one, 20 is a number, so I converted to a string and add it to the front. Okay? Yalla, yalla. Let's go. All right, so let's do the next one, a new one, which is going to be. So that one, actually, if I did this one, this is actually now exercise 2. It's not just exercise 3, that's exercise 2. Because we did exercise 1 and exercise 2 there. So let's save that, save as exercise 2, I guess. Wow. It's actually exercise 2 because it has the update in it. So let's go and look at exercise 3. So this is going to be lab 10 EX3. And what's happening there? So, okay, so actually I kind of remember it's this average, right? It's asking us about this average age. So we've done averages forever. So I hope we know about averages. Total and sum is equal to 0. Then we, inside the loop, we increment the total and the sum. Then outside the loop, we divide the total by the sum. There's your average. So before we start the loop this time, though, we want to know how many times we're going to do this. How many people in a group. So it's going to be a counted loop, and we get from the user how many in the group. Average age. Anything else special about it? Nothing really. Okay, so yellow, let's go. So this is going to be exercise 3 and 4, because 4 is just going to be an update on 3. So as I said, it's an average. So every time you're going to do an average, you know you have to have a total and a count. And you're going to take the total and start it at 0. And you can take the count and start it at 0. That's all average, always going to be like that. So straight up, we're going to do that. We know we have to do that. And we also know we got a counted loop. So our loop is going to be something to do with the count. Oh, but the counted loop, how many times we're going to do the loop? Well, the user is going to tell us how many times, because we're going to have this, please enter the number of people in the group. So I guess I could call this group count or something. G count, let's call it G count. G count is equal to, and it's going to be this input. It's going to be this input that is right here. Please enter the number of people in the group. Notice I'm copying this, and I copy that space after the colon, so that when when it comes up on the screen, there's a space, and so we don't get the number right beside the word, because it makes it hard to read. So that's just going to make it easier to read when it comes up on the screen. See the space after the colon? All right, so we've got that. That's done this bit so far. We asked it how many people in the group. And then we're going to do this as many times as there are people in the group. So that's going to be a while loop. So remember, average, what do? Total equals 0, count equals 0. Inside the loop, add to the total, add to the count. Outside, after the loop, divide the total by the count. So now we need to have our loop while, and it's a counted loop. That's good because we got a count equals 0. So while our count is less than what? Well, the user's told us how many times we're going to do it, and it's going to be this many times. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to say while our count is less than the value that the user told us how many times to do it. So we're just going to do that. Now, what do we do inside the loop? We update the total, we update the count. Okay, so we need to do a read. Sorry? Yes, we start out doing exercise 3. Yeah, we just add a different thing to it. So that's why I'm saying. Okay, so we're going to do this how many times? Well, G count times. What are we going to do? We're going to do this thing. We're going to ask them for the age. So we're going to get the age. Age takes a value of, spell age, something that recognizes. Age takes a integer value of an input that we put, which is going to be this thing that I just copied. So I'm going to put a string in there and just paste that thing that I just copied. Enter the age of a member. Okay, so now we know we got our read. We have to add our total and add our count. Easy peasy. So you like this thing about the plus equal. So you can do that again with the total. You can say total plus equal age. It's the same as what you did the other way. So saves you some typing. I mean, you're the one who said it, so that's why we're doing it. Wasn't my idea. But that saves you some typing, and we all like to save typing. Or maybe we don't, I don't know. So that this increments our count, and this increments the total. What this means is total takes the value of total plus age. What's the next thing? That's it, right? Then we have to calculate the average, but that's outside the loop. The thing that's controlling the loop is the count. We've incremented the count. So our loop is done. So now we can go and we can calculate our average. And that's going to be equal to the same thing it's always equal to, which is the total divided by the count. And then we're just going to print it. So, I mean, yeah, this is kind of basic, I suppose. It's only going to get fun when we look at part 4. We're going to put an if statement in there. So the average age, and we have a count in there. So I'm going to copy all of that, put that into here, and I'll see that there's some things that I have to replace. How do I know how many members? Now watch how I'm doing this if you want to save yourself some time. First, I put in 2 quotes. So that took 1 string and turned it into 2 strings. Everybody agree?
Yeah.
Then I have to join the strings, but I'm going to join the strings with something in the middle. So 2 pluses. And what am I going to put in the middle? I'm going to put another string, but it's a string that's converted from an integer. Well, what integer? The average. It's not an integer. It's a float, but that's fine. It'll still convert it. So I'm going to copy that. That's what I'm going to put there. The average age of these, oh, you're right. This is supposed to go over there. So this is, you're right. This is supposed to be count. Thank you. And then we did, the average is supposed to be here. This is the average. So I'll do the same thing there. Turn it into 2 strings. And I think I still have average in my, on my, my copy. Oh yeah, so there we go. I think that should work. So let's look and see. Before we go into the loop, we initialize our variables. We read our inputs. Oh no, this is just to count how many times. We've got our read here. There's a control of the loop. Let's see. What's this? Lab 10, exercise 3, 4. 3 and 4. Number of people in the group 2. They are 17 and the age of the member is 17 and 17, 21. 21 and the average is 19. Yeah, that's fine. So that's working. I don't know if we need to do the, should we do the other run on it with 6 in the group? So then we've got a 17, we got a 21, and we got a 22, and an 18, and a 25, and a 14, 19.5. So that's working fine. Okay, that's our code. pretty simple. Before the loop, initialize our variables. Inside the loop, we increment our variables. We saved ourselves some time. Thank you, Hafsa, for a little idea. Plus equal. We can do that with count. We can do that with total. And then we just calculate our other things. All right, we're not going to do lab 11. You know, I don't think we can do lab 11 later because it's doing modulo. Modulo is not going to turn up on the thing. But we've got one more exercise to do with this, which is we're going to take this one and we're going to say that we're going to have another count, which is for adults. We're going to see how many are adults. And how we're going to define an adult is somebody who's 18 or more. So this is kind of the same as we did in the other thing. We're going to have a thing here. We're just going to have another count called adults. And we're going to set it to 0 at the start of the program. And then inside the while loop, we're going to put an if statement, which is going to count the adults. Well, better get the age first. So it'll have to be after the age. So yeah, after we've read the age, if the age is bigger than or equal to 18, then they're an adult. So we can increment the adult. And we can do that in our easiest way, adults plus equal 1. So we add 1 to it. And that's it. Easy peasy. Now what we could do is print it out. So our print is, oops. They've given us the print statement in the description. No, not that. Where's my word? There. The group has how many adults? So I'm just going to copy that text and put it in the print. Where's the print? I'm in the wrong code thing. This one, right? So put that in the print. And I need to change this. So I'm going to change one string to 2 strings. I'll do that by putting 2 quotes. Then inside the quotes, put the pluses so I can put the function in there. And then in the string is going to be my adults. That should do it. Okay, so what did we do to change? We wanted to check every time somebody put their age and see if they're an adult, and then get a total of the number of adults. So because we're going to have a total, we have to set that at the start before we go into the loop. So that's why we went up here and said adults is 0. Only if the age is more than 18 do we add 1 to the adults. So if there was nobody who was more than 18, we would end up with adults being 0. But if anybody is over 18, every time that happens, we add 1 to the adults. And then we print it out. Yep, we added 3 things. We added this, we added the if statement. And notice the if statement doesn't have any else. Because if they're not more than 18, we don't do anything. Just leave it. We still calculate the age. I'm sorry, the total and the average, but we don't have any count for young people. But we could. Hey, why don't we do it so that we do?
I think we're missing some that if it's not an adult, it's supposed to be not an adult.
All right. I missed that. So let's have a look. Then we need to have a else. This is, oh yeah, you're right. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, so very good. So we also need to print something in, if they're more than this, we need to say that this is an adult. I can't believe I missed that. Thanks for that. So this is an adult. Can't believe it. All right, so that means that we're going to have an else. don't know, like that. That's kind of how I would do it. You know, what would be cool is we could have another total here, which would be minors. Well, minor is a child, right? Or we could say child. Which one do you like, minor or child? Minor, okay. Minor equals 0. And then we could do the same thing here as we did with the adults. Minors plus equal 1. And then we could do the same thing here as we did with the adults. And we could just say so you can see the true sort of working of the if then else. So this is separating people into two different groups, adults and minors. Anybody who's 18 or more is an adult, and we add them to a total for adults. Anybody who's less is not an adult. Oh, well, I should say here, this is not an adult. Yeah, okay. Yeah, which is the same thing as a minor. Let's go. Number of people in the group. Really? We asking the number of people in the group? I guess we are, right? I want to double check on that because make sure we didn't change. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're still asking number of people in the group. So this time we got like 6. Age 17, then 21, 22, 18, a lot of adults, 25, 14. So it should say we got 4 adults and we got 2 minors. Is that cool or what? So there's, you know, if it's binary like that, it's easy to work with. We could do the same thing like we could say how many are male, and then, you know, if male, then add, else we could just add it to female. Unless you're living in the United States, then you wouldn't be sure. Just kidding. I just sorry I had to say that. All right, are we done now? It's working? Okay, exercise 3 and 4 are the same, basically. All I did to exercise 4 is added this thing about the minors. Klassen, Zane. Okay, I think I'm kind of done now. Any questions? I know Omar wants me to come and debug his code. Usual.
I went to lines of nothing.
Spelling. I don't know, it's so different here than it is somewhere else, or else it doesn't exist. But here it's like that. Okay, here's a big, here's a little.
Here,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
No, it does matter. It matters big stuff. They gotta be the same. That's what I was saying. Yeah, it's case sensitive.
This is so annoying. One thing.
That's why I suggest you do the copy and paste, because then it'll be the same every time.
So, this is that. And then just take picture.
All good? Easy peasy? Okay, so tomorrow, what's gonna happen tomorrow? We can do lab 11, and maybe we'll have a little bit of revision. Do the best we can.
It's the final or last day?
So the final, I think is gonna be, in the first week of the exam. We have a day, but it's not, it's provisional. They'll all be in Ramadan. All the finals are during Ramadan. Ramadan starts next week.
Will we have a final?
I think that in the test we're gonna have on Tuesday, I don't think you have to draw a flow chart, but I'll let you know tomorrow. But I think you might be given a flow chart, you might have to write some Python code. I know you have to write some Python code. So when I say you have to write Python code, that's a problem. I'm going to give you two sheets of paper apparently. I'm supposed to give you. So I'll give you two sheets of paper for you to write on, to scribble on. But you have to write your Python code in lockdown browser D2L. So you won't be able to use idle. And also I'm going to take your phones from.
So if there is a flow in our program, we can't even run it and set.
That's right. That's
But-
okay. So I just want to make sure we get the negatives and the positive correct here. You cannot use idle. You cannot check your code. All you can do is write it just like you're writing on paper.
I have
You can't test
one
it.
is very doing, we're learning computer, and we can't use a calculator to play the computer. And then we're doing coding, and we can't use a coding program.
That's a point, sir. I'll go back to green.
Yeah. Okay. So here we are. We got like 14 sections. Right. We're not going to change the concept. You understand that?
So, how about
There's a huge inertia here. We got 14 sections, and they all have to be the same. And so nothing's going to happen here unless I would have to literally move 8 other teachers to get anything changed on it. It's not going to happen.
So I moved it. I have a stroke.
Yeah. Good luck. I'll give you the email. Then.
They're gonna block me. They're gonna block me so fast.
So yeah, it's not going to change. And all of those things are because of we always have exam security, right? So we try to limit the amount of electronic device inputs.
So look, I can show you my physics online test. Year 12. That's how I got off IM1.
I didn't.
Look at the problem.
You guys are like scientists. Yeah, in physics.
These are my physics tests different.
Oh, that's impressive.
Still.
Grade 12 physics.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
impressive. That's great. Oh, okay, I'm done, I reckon. You guys done? Sorry? There's another one somewhere, right? Yeah. This one, 2? 2 or 1? This one? Well, 1's the same as 2, isn't it? That's the first one. Ah, you will write paper? Right. Tracing. Oh, yeah, I think you might be doing tracing. Thanks for reminding me.
I'm done. So can I leave?
There'll be tracing, but you might not have to write tracing. Maybe there'll be tracing, there'll be a multi-choice or something, or maybe you'll be tracing and then you have it. I'm not sure. I know tracing is there. The exam has been written and I didn't write it. But I was just looking at it today. I just looked at it actually just before you came in and I just saw that there were some multiple choice questions. And I recognized the questions. They came from the
So can you send us our quizzes?
I think they're going to be.
Yeah, can you send us our quizzes?
At least help us.
Nope.
Okay, our math quizzes, we get them back. They're in my bag right now.
No,
we don't. I do, they're in my bag right now.
So we get them
these
to.
well.
No? I'll show you.
Inshallah. 9:30. So look for the 17.
No, man, mine is so good. She gives me back. No, but honestly.
All right, see you later.
Wow.
Oh.
What did you do?